Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and welcome to the SmallBizChat podcast. I want you to know that today's show is all about developing the leadership and sales systems to scale your business. We're also going to be talking about wealth. What is it? How can you obtain it, especially if you're a woman or a girl? And also, we want you to know that they're going to be sharing some great insights tonight. And if you've been thinking about these things, if you've been trying to figure out how to scale or what you needed to put in place so that you could scale your business, you're in the right place. If you're struggling with feast or famine sales in your business, we've got some great information for you tonight. And certainly in honor of Women's History Month, we are going to be talking tonight about being a wealthy girl. The Small Biz Chat podcast is a peer-to-peer interview show where we get you invaluable information that you would otherwise have to pay big dollars for. The mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. We are broadcasting on my Facebook fan page as well as YouTube. So if you miss it, don't worry. You can come back and check it out later. The goal of the Small Biz Podcast is to give you a small business audience an opportunity to hear sage advice and take your business to the next level. Tonight's guests are business transformation coach Jeff Chastain. He's going to be talking to us about getting your business ready to scale. And we're also going to be talking with sales expert Liz Heiman on how to develop your sales operation processes. And also joining us is Charisse Conanan, and she's here to talk about her new book, A Wealthy Girl's 7 Steps to Prosperity, Peace, and Personal Power. So now it's time for me to introduce my first guest, Mr. Jeff Chastain. He is a business transformation coach with more than 15 years. He's led multiple businesses himself. He is the CEO of Admentus, which is which they work with growth-oriented leaders and their teams to gain clarity and get the most out of what they want from their business as they build a plan to scale. For more information, you can go to Admentus.com. Jeff, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
So tell me about you. How did you learn all this great knowledge about how to scale a business? Have you done it?
Well, yes. And that's kind of the story of most business owners. A lot of trial and error and then a lot of books and other things like that. But yeah, a lot of trial and error through several businesses myself. So it's definitely a lot of learned knowledge for sure.
Now, I know that I have read that you say that you rarely see businesses operating at their full potential. When you think everybody's leaving money on the table, Jeff, what's going on? Tell me why you say that.
In all honesty, they really are. I deal with a lot of businesses that are profitable, but the thing that most business owners don't see, and we may touch on this later on with the financial side, is they look at the business overall and say it's profitable, but they may have 5 product lines here, and they don't know one of those product lines is carrying the business and the other 4 are potentially dragging them down. It's like, okay, if you really knew the numbers, if you knew what was going on in the business down to that level, you might say, hey, let's get rid of those other 4 product lines, put more resources into the one that's actually moving forward. And I've seen businesses literally do a 10 times increase in top line revenue without any change in headcount or anything else, just by saying, okay, let's actually operate a little bit more efficiently here and figure out what can we do better with the same team, with the same people. And it's amazing some of the turnarounds, some of the hidden nuggets that are really inside that business.
That's really fascinating. I wouldn't have thought that there are people that you have to convince them to stop doing something to make money.
It really is. It's the old saying of, I think it's the worst phrase in the English language is we've always done things this way. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we just get those blinders on and this is the way we do things. This is what's going on. And it sounds self-promoting, and I try not to go that way. But it's like, to me, the business leaders that I've talked to, both my clients and not, have said the biggest turning point is when they bring in an outside coach, an outside advisor, a board of directors, something like that, somebody that is outside, has potentially climbed the mountain before them, but understands and can see and ask, really, why are you doing things that way? Because a lot of times when we're down in the trenches, we don't see it at that point.
I definitely have worked with businesses that are like at 1 million and like they're trying to get to, like 5 million. And one of the biggest things that I've always heard people say was when we hired a CFO, everything got better in the business because them and their accountant were meeting, quarterly, they were getting financial statements monthly, but people don't completely know how to read their financial statements and they're not tracking profitability down to the nitty gritty, like what you're talking about. So I believe what you're saying. Now, if somebody is thinking about scaling their business, what do you think the first thing is they really need to do?
Well, it really kind of depends upon the business, in my perspective. I look at it as the adage, the parable of how do you build building a house on the rock versus house on the sand kind of a thing. That obviously, hopefully, we're on the tailing edge of this pandemic. But whether it's a pandemic or whether it's a key employee leaving, whatever, there's going to be storms, there's going to be shifts in the market, and it all comes down to the foundation of the business. And so, does the business have a strong foundation, or is it still running effectively in that startup phase where the owner's wrapping more duct tape around the business, wrapping their arms around the business, trying to hold it together? And until that owner can say, hey, let's actually put the people in place, put the systems in place, things like that to build out that foundation, it's really effectively never going to scale because honestly, the owner's sitting there strangling the business right there by trying to keep their hands wrapped around and in everything at that point. So it's almost, to me, it's a mindset shift of the owner and the leadership team, first and foremost, to say, okay, we don't necessarily know everything. We're not the experts at everything. We can delegate and trust our people and then help effectively grow out the company at that point.
So what do you think are like the 4 key pillars of successfully scaling a business?
Well, I look at it in 4 different areas, like you said. It's looking at the overall strategy. So you've got to have your roadmap, your end goal. Where are we trying to go to with the company? I look at it as saying, okay, again, climbing the mountain. What's our pinnacle? What's the point of the mountain that we're going to? And it's got to be a bigger picture goal that gets everybody excited about. Honestly, it's I forget what the saying was, that if your goal doesn't at least partially scare you, it's not big enough, kind of a thing. So having that strategy to reach for what's our goal and how we're going to get there. And then the second part of it, the complementary part, is the execution side. And it doesn't matter how great of a plan you've got. If you're not executing in a strong manner, you're never going to reach it. And then vice versa, kind of a thing. If you're executing with no plan, you're going nowhere. So those 2 keys there. And then obviously the third piece is the people side. You've got to have the right people in the business, right functions, the right processes, things like that. But it all comes down to people. Almost any time I'm dealing with a business and there's issues going on, there's a people issue somewhere at the root of that. And then the last side we kind of already touched on is simply the cash side. You've got to understand the cash flow through the business. You've got to understand your time to close on deals, how quick can we get profitable, things like that. That everything's got to be driven on the numbers. That if you're not paying attention to the numbers, if you're just looking at, hey, we've got money in the bank account, that works in the early days, but it doesn't work in a scaling, growing business at that point. So it's really looking at all 4 of those areas together, making sure that they're all built up together rather than focusing solely on one piece or one component of the business, which I see a lot of people, because they work in their expertise. They work in their lane. So if my lane is numbers or my lane is strategy, then that piece is almost invariably going to be the stronger component. And the other areas of the business will suffer. So you've got to keep an eye really on all 4 pillars right there. Make sure your foundation's supported across the board, not just on one corner or one edge.
To me. It's amazing to me, like how many times I feel like, business problems are like not so well hidden personal problems. You know what I mean? And so, and I was wondering if that has been your case as well, as you go into businesses and because I don't know about you, but I can go into a business and be there about an hour and ask enough people questions, and I can tell you what's wrong, usually on my first day, my first visit. And so, and a lot of times, you come into businesses sometimes that are a cult of personality of the business owner. And so I was wondering how often, are you kind of seeing some of those things or?
Oh, it's almost every time. It's the ones, the big red flags to me always are sitting down in front of the leadership team and you ask one of the other leaders a question and their first glance is at the CEO. Okay, can I really answer this? Can I really say what's going on? It's like, okay, there's the first problem right there. Is everything again is driven off of that CEO, that visionary, which in some respects, it's, hey, they're the big idea person, but at the same time, you got to be able to have the full team environment right there in order to grow it. That's where I see, okay, that's a red flag. You're not growing right there until we can separate some people here and actually have some independent minds and some independent ideas.
Right. So, what do you feel like are, in order to have an effective sort of like business vision, business leaders have to make that vision actionable. But I always feel like, I almost feel like, you know how everybody's website says they're going to save you time and money? Like, that's kind of how I feel about business vision, right? I mean, it's like my vision is, you know what I mean? It's like these, it's almost, so one of the things that super makes me crazy is when people talk about annual revenues. Like, we're going to make 2.3 million this year. You know what? I don't care about that. What I want to know is, how much money did you have to make this week? And did you make it? And if you didn't, do you know why? And what are you going to do next week to make up for the revenue you didn't make this week? That is the conversation I have with people. I don't let people tell me, oh, we're going to make $50,000 this month, or okay, well, where is that coming from? Is that just some aspiration that you just had? I mean, so I ask you that question knowing my own sarcastic self inside my head is going, yeah, right, I can't wait to hear this answer, right? Because I'm always like, business vision. Let me take out my mini violin for that. So tell me, what does that say to you, and how do you work that, with the people that you work with?
Yeah, to me, vision honestly is something separate. It's to me, it's the story of JFK back when we were pre-trip to the moon, and he's walking through touring NASA in the middle of the night, kind of a thing, late after hours, comes across a janitor in the hallway, and the janitor's cleaning the floor, kind of a thing, but just being friendly, asked him, hey, what's your name? What do you do here? And the janitor, instead of saying, yes, I'm cleaning the floor, or yes, I'm cleaning up after the idiot that spilled his coffee through here last night, says, I'm helping put a man on the moon. And that's the vision. That's the say of, okay, what are we going to be as a company to say, okay, what's our moonshot goal? What's our long-term goal there? And getting the entire team bought into that he's not sitting here looking at, yeah, I'm a $10 an hour janitor cleaning the floors here after hours. And, oh, wait a minute, somebody else is going to go pay me $12. I'm jumping over there. He's got a much bigger picture buy-in to say, yes, I'm part of something bigger. And that having that with your team pulls everybody in the same direction and say, okay, we're actually going to pull together and work towards this. We've got more buy-in than just saying it's another job. Because if it's just a job, honestly, that's corporate America. That's not, everybody's there just for, it's a paycheck. It's a 9 to 5. Why am I here kind of a thing?
It's health benefits, right?
Yeah, we don't have that luxury in small to mid-sized business. We've got to have people bought into this and really pulling that way. And to me, that's the vision that says, okay, who are we as a company, our culture? Where are we going? What's our big moonshot goal? And how are we going to get there? Then we take what you're talking about and say, okay, from the execution standpoint, we've got this big elephant goal out here at 10 to 15 years. How are we going to eat that elephant? That's the point we start backing it down and saying, okay, one bite at a time, what's your bite this week that's going to get us closer there? And we didn't make our bite. We didn't get there. Okay, how are we going to make it up? But it's getting down to that point of execution to say, okay, one bite at a time, how are we going to get there? But your vision's got to be the big picture to say, okay, what's your team excited about? Why are we on this journey? Why are we out there? Are we just to be another CPA firm, another IT firm? Or is there something bigger in mind that we're pick your goal kind of a thing there? And that's really where I work with clients to say, hey, we got to get something bigger here than just being another CPA firm here. Well, why does your team want to come work for just another CPA firm here? We got to get something bigger here that they really buy into and they really feel a part of at that point and want to work towards.
Sounds good. Sounds good. You are watching the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. Stay with us. We're going to talk more about how to position your leadership to scale your business when we come right back. Stay with us.
People always ask me, how can I become my own boss? With multiple features in the New York Times, Forbes, and on ABC News as America's #1 small business expert, I know a thing or two about how to do it. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I've been coaching small business owners since 2008. That's right, I've been helping small business owners plan for success since the last recession, and I'm still here reaching over 3 million small business owners a week online. I've spent the last 12 years compiling exactly what I did to become my own boss. I even broke it down into a 6-step system in my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. Over 100,000 people in multiple languages around the world have this book. And due to the pandemic, I know people need help. If you're ready to transition successfully from being an employee into your own business, I'm here to help. I'm giving away 1,000 copies of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months for free. All you need to do is pay for shipping. That's right, I'm giving away 1,000 copies for free. If you've always wanted to start your dream business, let me give you a roadmap to success. This offer will only be available while supplies last, and when they're gone, they're gone. Click on the button to grab your copy today.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I am here with my guest, growth expert, Jeff Chastain, and we're talking about how to boost your leadership to scale your small business. All right, Jeff. So let's talk about, okay, I want to scale my business. It costs money to make money, right? Where are you going to find this money? And what kind of money do you need to be thinking about even when you want to make investments in your business to scale?
Well, it definitely, the saying or whatever is it takes money to make money kind of a thing. And it definitely has some truth to it. But most of the time as business owners or as people in business, we're looking at that and saying, well, that means I need to go get a loan, or that means I need to go get investment, something like that. But kind of going back to what we talked about before, I've yet to really run into a business that was operating at its true potential kind of a thing, that there's almost certainly money in terms of profitability, things like that, efficiencies, et cetera, in the business already that you can maximize right there to say, okay, let's, again, get more profitable, get more efficient with our team, making sure everybody's pulling the same direction there. We can get a lot more accomplished just with the same resources without saying, hey, we're going to go double headcount or something like that. And then really the other side of it these days is there's really been to me, a big shift in the market with a lot of the fractional and virtual kind of expertise out there that you don't have to go pay $120,000 to bring in a CFO, especially at a small business. You honestly don't even need a full-time CFO or something like that. You can go find a fractional person that's just there for 1 day a week or something like that, provides you the expertise that they've got, but still at a much smaller fractional kind of cost right there. So to me, the ability to go build a business these days with fractional resources, with virtual kind of, it's called virtual or referred to it as virtual, but still the remote workers kind of a thing. I was talking with a staffing firm earlier, actually just today, that is based specifically for the legal industry of pulling in remote work. And especially these days, since everybody's used to doing Zoom work right now, you can basically, it really doesn't matter as to, okay, is your marketing rep over here on the West Coast versus you're on the East Coast, or are they down in Central America kind of a thing and working at, honestly, a much less pay scale right there just because of their locale. And there's a lot of different resources right there that you can scale without having to have the really big cost there.
Well, let's talk about staffing, because I do think that's one of the things that comes up. Sometimes you have your team you started with, but then you can outgrow your team, right? And so how is it that you sort of like start looking at your staff and then sort of looking at what you might need to outsource strategically to grow?
Yeah, it's definitely a case that as the business grows, I've seen a lot of businesses outgrow their staff. Like you said, it's the person that was, all we got to do is handle the books. We got to keep QuickBooks up to date. No big deal kind of a thing. And now all of a sudden we're handling full accounts receivable for 100 clients, and it just gets literally beyond them at that point. So it's definitely a case as you continue to grow to sit there and honestly reevaluate the roles and figure out, okay, do we have, I use a system called top grading that's sitting there looking at each role to say, okay, what are the different responsibilities for this role, having them defined out, having really measurables from both a culture standpoint as well as a actual skills kind of fit to say, okay, are you still meeting these goals, and having quarterly conversations or so at that point to be able to realize and say, because a lot of times those kind of people that it's the friend that's doing your books or whatever for you, they're wishing you would let them out of that job, that they really realize themselves that this is way beyond them, but they feel indebted to you to say, hey, we're going to keep doing this. And having that conversation, having that realization there to say, yeah, I really am way over my head here. Let's go look for something else. It's a tough conversation, but a lot of times if you can put the metrics and everything behind it to realize, have a quantifiable conversation that, okay, we're not getting the annual reports or we're not getting the monthly reports on time. What's going on? Or we're not meeting our company values of being open and honest all the time. What's going on? And it gives you that opportunity to have those conversations better. And at that point, honestly, yeah, you got to move some people around or potentially replace some people. But it's so many times I deal with business that just they're not clear. They don't have the clarity. That's why clarity is one of my biggest pieces right there. Is like, you just don't understand what's going on in the business because you don't have the numbers, you don't have the data, you don't have the metrics there. And therefore it just causes stress, confusion really across the board at that point.
Mm. Well, this is my question for you, Jeff. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to speak at South by Southwest, and one of the other speakers down there was Mark Cuban. And it was interesting because that was the first time I ever saw him interviewed when it wasn't like this high pressure Shark Tank like kind of situation. And he answered a question and he said that there are no shortcuts in scaling a business. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I don't know that I would necessarily call it a shortcut. I was going to say, I would disagree because a lot of times I'll talk with clients or business owners, like say, okay, do you want to go the fast route or do you want to go the slow route? Because most business owners technically can figure this all out themselves. Today, to me, it's almost information overload. There's so much information out there. The information, the tools are out there. Do you want to spend the time? Do you want to spend the money? Do you want to spend the trial and error to go figure it out all yourself, which you probably can do? Or do you get the outside resources? Do you bring in the coach? Do you bring in the fractional CFO? Do you bring in the board of directors kind of a thing? And honestly, speed that up quite a bit because they're going to be the ones that says, hey, I've been down this path. Why are you doing that? Why are you making this decision? Have you looked at this XYZ here? And they're going to help you move it a lot faster. So whether you call that a shortcut or not, there are definitely ways to leverage people that have been there before you, that have gone that guide, that's been up that path before you, and make it be a lot smoother, a lot faster, a lot less painful journey than figuring it out yourself. But I don't know whether you call that a shortcut or not.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's perspective, right? So I think that when you build something from the ground and it takes you X number of years to scale it, it will feel like, every inch was a mile, right? But I think that I do think that we've gotten into this society, especially it's like everybody wants to be a boss, right? Until they actually have to be one. And so because we're into this mentality of get rich, everybody can be a boss, people listening to Grant Cardone, all these people. And I'm like, stop listening to those people, please. Anyway, so, Tim Ferriss's book was a lie. I'm tired of telling people that, like the 4-hour work week, he didn't start out working 4 hours a week. So anyway, I digress. But my point simply is that I worry about just shortcut and the word business being in the same sentence, right? I do think that you can go faster with help than you can alone, right? Sure, we can all figure it out. We can order all the books off of Amazon or listen to them all on Audible, whatever. But why do that? I mean, I think we should do some of that. But I do think that we need to make sure that we are being honest, about what we can handle and what we can't. And the first person we have to be honest about being above water with skill set is the business owner. Like you've got to be able to be honest with yourself about whether or not you're the person to lead a business that's $10 million in revenue versus $1 million in revenue. Like, are you ready to go there? And I think that kind of comes back to all of that. But listen,
I definitely agree. And I think it's... Go ahead. No, I definitely agree with it. And I think it's really the key point of, like you said, moving to that next level. Are you willing to step back? Because the reality is the systems and tools that got you to a $1 million business or a $5 million business are not going to take you to a 10 or a 50 at that point. You've got to change. You've got to grow. And whether that's completely stepping back for another CEO or whether that's simply saying, I've got to bring smarter resources, honestly, around me. That it's the saying of, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room, kind of a thing there. And that's true with business right there. You can't be, CEOs shouldn't be the smartest person in the room. They've got their lane of expertise, but they should constantly be putting additional resources, additional expertise around them.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. That was such great insight. And up next, we're going to be talking about, now that you know what you need to do to scale the leadership in your business, we're going to be talking about the sales systems you need to scale your business. You're watching Small Biz Chat. I'll be right back.
Is now the right time to start a business? This is the second most frequently asked question people always ask me, along with how can I become my own boss? And they aren't wrong for asking, because right now, these are the two most important questions anyone whose job security has been recently impacted is wondering. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, better known as Small Biz Lady. And when it comes to small business success, I've been featured multiple times on MSNBC and CNBC and ABC News as America's #1 small business expert. Since the last recession in 2008, I have helped many small business owners plan for success, and I'm still here, reaching 3 million entrepreneurs each week online. I've created a system that will teach you exactly how to become your own boss. I broke it all down into a 6-step system in my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. It's the exact roadmap to help you successfully transition from having a job to being your own boss. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many folks are suffering, and I want to do my part to help. I'm giving away 1,000 copies of my book for free. All you need to do is cover the shipping. If you have always wanted to start your dream business, let me give you a roadmap to success. Take advantage of my free offer while supplies last. Click the button below to grab yours before they're all gone.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert, and your host. And we are broadcasting from my Small Biz Lady Facebook fan page, as well as my YouTube channel. So if you miss any parts of this interview, you can go watch it again there. Now, I'm really excited to talk to my next guest. Her name is Liz Heiman. Liz is a national sales expert and the founder and CEO of Regarding Sales LLC. Her firm focuses on building B2B sales operation systems that drive extraordinary growth. Liz uses strategy and process to create a roadmap for success that focuses her clients on getting the results they need. For more information, head over to regardingsales.com. Liz, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thanks, Melinda. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. You know, you are like a sales expert. So I'm so excited to have you on the show tonight. So tell me about, like, what are the most common small business sales mistakes that you see? Like the ones that are like your top 5. Like what is the stuff out here that you see constantly?
I think the first one is that people think, oh, I'm going to hire a salesperson and magic is going to happen. Like they're just going to start selling and all my problems are going to be solved. And it's just not true. You know, first of all, there are tons of different kinds of salespeople with different kinds of skills. And there's all these tools that they need. And, you know, Jeff was talking about vision and purpose and being part of something. And salespeople need all of that too. So that's the first one. And I think the second one is, oh, if they made it at Google or Apple, they can help me. And the fact of the matter is, if I've got a small business, I don't have the resources to support somebody who's used to working at Google. I need somebody who's scrappy and smart and creative and versatile and ready to jump in and do, I call them cowboys, right? So they can rope and ride and fix fences, or cowgirls, fix fences and do whatever needs to be done. And no one has to say, hey, there's a hole in the fence. Right? They know what to do. And so that's, you know, we need people like that, not people who are used to having everything in place and ready and perfect. I think the other big mistake is that, okay, I'm going to hire a salesperson or a sales manager or even a CSO. And I don't have to worry about sales anymore. I am out of it. They're going to take care of it. And it's not true. You're never out of the sales process. If you're the CEO, or the founder, you are part of the sales process, and you need to know when and how to be involved in it. So, and I think the last thing, and this really ties into, what I really do, which is people thinking, I'm just going to add one more salesperson and add one more salesperson, but they don't put the infrastructure in place that supports that salesperson or all of those salespeople. So what they have is chaos. And I hear company owners, it's one of my favorite words that they say to me is, I ask them, what is sales like? And they're like, it's chaotic. It's just chaos. And that's the result of adding without structure.
All right. So let's get to this. So what is a sales operations system? Like, what are the pieces that I need before I hire this hotshot salesperson? What do I got to have in place, Liz?
Yeah, well, you got to have a lot of things in place. So part of it is what Jeff was talking about. So we need the strategies. We need business strategy that tells us where we're going and gives us those goals that we're going to hit and the vision. But we also need a sales strategy that says just what you were talking about, Melinda. How do we get from where I am right now today to 5 million, to 10 million, to 30 million, or maybe it's 500,000 and 600,000 and 700,000, whatever it is. You need a roadmap to get there. You don't just get there accidentally. You've got to map it out. Which products are we selling? And this goes again back to what Jeff was saying about which are our most profitable products, which one should we lead with, who's going to sell what territories, what, all of the different things. So we need that. We need what I call, and we need a lead generation strategy, because people think that magically salespeople are going to close leads they don't have. It just doesn't happen. We do not close leads we don't have. And the other thing is what I call frameworks. And these are the kind of the rules and I talk about a communication framework, for example, and this is, who are all the people that are involved in the buying decision? What do I need to know about them? What are the rules about talking to different people? What do they need to know? How do they communicate? What do they care about? Where are they? So those kinds of frameworks and structures that explain what's going on. And then systems. We go through step 1, then we go through step 2, then we go through step 3, and we put it in here and we dump it in there and we fold it over here. It's a process, a system. And so those are the first things that we need. And I think the important thing to understand is that a sales operating system is not technology. Having a CRM does not solve your problem. Getting outreach or Gong, these fancy tools, and thinking that somehow magically they are going to solve everything is not going to happen. Technology doesn't solve the problem. Technology just supports the sales structures that you have in place.
You have said so much, Liz. I don't know where to go, but here's where I think I want to go. Tell me about the lead generation system, because I feel like from as someone that coaches small business owners that are between 250,000 to like 5 million in revenue, that that's pretty much where I live. Invariably, there is a lead gen problem. Because I feel like they have a lead gen problem, then they have sort of like a sales system problem, and then they have a follow-up problem. Because most of the time, I know small businesses that get calls they don't return, or get emails that go into a hole that nobody checks, like all this kind of stuff that they are doing lead gen, but the lead gen's lost in the sauce. And, so help me break it down to my my little guy that's just like on constant contact, right? They don't have and they don't know about email automation.
I'm sales coach.
Automation.
living that world. But no, so here's the first thing is before we can create a lead generation strategy or process, first we have to know what our sales math is. So again, Jeff, you'll appreciate this. We have to understand, how many leads do I actually need? So if it takes me 10 leads to get one closed deal, I need to start doing the math. And if I need 50 closed deals, well, then how many leads do I need? And those are sales qualified leads, not marketing qualified leads. So how many marketing qualified leads do I need? So, it's this big big thing to understand. What's the math? So you can't have a lead gen process that's going to be successful until you understand what you're trying to generate and where, for which, again, which products, which industries, which people, who am I talking to? Now I can begin to understand what is my lead generation strategy need to be, and then what does the process need to be? And so in terms of what is a lead generation process, it starts in marketing. And so a lot of people think, oh, I'll just have sales generate all their own leads. Well, sure, but that's a lot of wasted time for sales to be generating all their own leads. Really, it's a lot cheaper to have marketing generate some leads. So we want some of the leads to come out of marketing. Now, sales is going to generate some leads, but those are going to be from people they know, from existing customers, referrals, all these places where we can make our time, spend our time really well. But what we want to start with is, this is marketing. Marketing generates these leads using content and ads and emails and all of these things. And then we get a lead score in our system, even if it's something as simple as serving as a monkey. What is it? MailChimp.
Survey Monkey.
MailChimp.
Okay.
Even MailChimp probably will give you some sort of a lead score. And then you need to figure out, okay, which ones are actually qualified enough to hand to my salesperson, because I do not want to waste their time calling people that don't care, that don't want to talk to them. So there's got to be a process. What's that turnover process? How do we decide which ones get there, and what information do we need to give them? And then it's now in the sales funnel. So it's come out of the marketing funnel and funneled into the sales funnel. And so now I've got to figure out, from all those things that have been handed to me or that I'm thinking about, which ones am I going to try and qualify? And that means I'm reaching out more carefully to them, trying to set appointments. And then from there, this is the big thing. My job is to qualify out all of the junk that's in there. So I get on the phone with somebody, I talk to them, and I qualify them. And if they aren't a good lead, I don't work with them. I focus my energy on the good leads. And then I take them through a process of, I call cultivating, handling objections, fixing the problems, all learning about them. And then close is the process of getting them to sign and pay. And it is not closed until they signed and paid. So that is the process.
So it's not signing, it's signing and paying. That's what I heard you say.
That is what I said.
That
is the truth.
Okay, now I'm gonna take you back though, because you said something that made me stop dead in my tracks. You said there's a difference between a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead. I'm gonna need you to break that down for all of us, because I'm sure you just made some people's wig flip around with that. So tell me.
Probably did. And so
tell me what. Mine's so down, so mine can't go. But what I'm saying is, I need you to tell me what is that for a small business? What is that? And the sales scoring and all that kind of stuff. Is there software that does that? Do I got to develop a process to do a sales score? Like, tell me what that is.
So most even your most basic mail programs will say, oh, they read this, they clicked on, they did this, they did that, and it'll tell you. So you want to make sure everything's connected to your website and to your mail program. And anybody who is helping you with your website can help you do that. It's not super complicated. But here's the big thing. Just because somebody downloaded something does not make them a lead. That may be a marketing qualified lead. If they read 16 articles, I can go on a website and read 16 articles, but I'm not going to buy their product because I'm a sales consultant and I don't have a sales team of 30 or 50 or 150 people. I am not a qualified lead. And so the first thing is, okay, they interacted with me. Now I need to figure out who they are. Are they really, do they fit and here's another word I'm going to throw out, my ideal customer profile, meaning not just my target, but who do I really want to be selling to? Who's most likely to buy from me? Do they fit that? Have they really expressed interest? Do they, I want to go through and make some rules about, okay, these are ones that are worthy of the sales team pursuing, or me, if I'm the one that's pursuing them. So I have an article. Here's an example. I have an article and hundreds of thousands of people have read it and about 10 people download it a day. And I go through and get rid of 9 or 10 of them every single day, because they're not, just because they downloaded, that does not make them a lead, and it's not worth me pursuing. So that's the difference between a marketing qualified lead, which is they did something, they clicked, they downloaded, and a sales qualified lead, which is somebody that's worth me or my sales team pursuing, spending time on.
Got it. That was a gem, because I don't know that I've ever heard that explained like that. And that's really, really, really helpful. So, when you want to hire a salesperson, what should you do first when you make the decision, I'm ready to hire my first salesperson?
So the first thing is make sure that you understand the critical things about your company, like who's my ideal customer? What's my target audience? How am I different than my competitors? And what's my value proposition? Because if you throw your salesperson out into the middle of the river without those, they can't swim. So they've got to have those basic things. The next thing is, the more complex your sale is, the more people involved, the longer it takes, the more important it is to have a sales process. And so you need to map that out so that your salesperson can understand what it is that they're supposed to do. And then you need to decide, we talked about that whole from the beginning of the lead to the close, which part of that is the salesperson responsible for? Do I have somebody who's in just do outbound calling? Is this person responsible just for closing business? Are they supposed to be growing my key accounts? Like what do I want this person to do? And then find a person that has that skill set. Because sales is not sales is sales is sales, and anybody can sell anything anyway. And that's not what it is.
I think that's very, very helpful. So, when it comes, should you divide up the sales roles? Like, I know you said that the salesperson needs to know what part of it, but if you're a 4-person operation, Liz.
Yeah, you can't do it. You got to find.
You're it.
Yeah,
you're it.
You need to be a cowboy or hire a cowboy. That is the bottom line at that point. You need somebody who can do all of it, at least relatively well. And sometimes it means you've got to bring other people in. So if you have somebody that's really good at everything, but maybe not great at closing, then bring the owner in and help with the close. Just because you're my salesperson doesn't mean you have to do the entire thing by yourself. If you're really lousy at outbound calling and you do everything else great, well, then let's get an intern in and have them do some outbound calls. But let's not get mad at a salesperson because they have this amazing skill set and they're not good at this one thing. Well, then don't have them do that thing. So, use the resources that you have to the best capacity that you can use them. I think that's the bottom line. So understanding who your team is and what they're good at and using them the way they work best.
So do you think a salesperson is the first hire that most small business owners should make?
No, I don't. I think you're your first salesperson. I would rather have you hire people in operations, get somebody making sure the accounting is done properly. And you have to be your first salesperson. You have to really understand who you're selling to, what their needs are, how to talk to them, how the process works before you send somebody out to do it. Because if you don't, 1, you're not going to be able to coach and help them. And 2, they're going to make something up. When you don't have an answer for something, they make it up. And it may be right, it might be wrong. So
I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Liz. When we come back, we are going to talk more about how to get your sales operation systems together. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You're watching the Chef Podcast, and we will be right back.
I just finished presenting to over 2,000 small business owners who jumped on my webinar on how to become your own boss in these uncertain times. I partner with top brands including Verizon, American Express, and Chase to educate small business owners across the country. In today's webinar, I taught my 6-step system to start a business. I also taught them how to establish a disaster-proof plan to turn their calling into income. We talked about how to find the people they want to serve online. I know how to help you make money as a boss. I've spent the last 12 years compiling exactly what it takes to become your own boss. I even broke it down into a 6-step system in my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss. Over 100,000 people in multiple languages around the world have this book. And due to the pandemic, I know people need help. If you're ready to transition successfully from being an employee to becoming your own boss, listen carefully. I'm giving away 1,000 copies of my book, Become Your Own Boss, for free. All you need to do is pay for shipping. That's right, I'm giving away 1,000 copies. This book is going to show you how to become your own boss, create a pandemic-proof plan, and launch a successful business. Don't delay. This offer is only available while supplies last.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm here with my guest, Liz Heiman, and she is talking to us about getting your sales together. All right, Liz, talk to me about what your favorite tech tools are for salespeople, particularly if you're just like kind of getting started with building a sales organization.
So yeah, if you're a small business, one of the first things to consider investing in is a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. And here's the thing. It doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be expensive, and it doesn't need to be complicated. What it needs to do is have a place for you and your salespeople to keep all of the information about the things what you're trying to sell and who you're trying to sell it to. So you're not constantly searching for phone numbers and looking, nobody else can help because it's in his or her desk, or, it's a place to manage, organize, store the information and to help remind you what you need to do next. So it's worth the investment. And we can talk about that a little bit more later. I think that when we think about sales tools, we forget the telephone is a sales tool, Zoom is a sales tool, email is a sales tool, all of those things. We need to be modern sellers. We need to be able to function in a virtual world, regardless of what we sell and who we're selling it to. Video is huge now. The impact that you can have sending a video as opposed to an email is amazing. So kind of thinking about what do I do every day and what things would make it easier. There are all kinds of fancy tools like Outreach and SalesLoft that automate everything for you. But if you got 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 salespeople, and you probably don't need all those fancy tools. You need a place to manage information. You need to know how to understand it, and you need to be able to communicate with the people you're selling to. And I don't know that you need a whole lot more than that.
I think that's fair. So then how do you engage your entire team around the sales process? Because sales isn't supposed to just happen by the salespeople, right? Everybody's involved in sales.
We do not put sales on an island and wonder why they don't succeed. They need to be the center of your business. And this is my thing is, the heart in our body pumps the blood. We have a soul, we have a brain, we have all these other things, but the heart pumps the blood, and your sales team pumps the lifeblood through your business, because if there's no money, there's no business. So we have to understand, just like our heart is in the center of our bodies, our sales teams need to be in the center of our organization. So part of what we can do is when we set up the CRM, we can, 1, make it sales-centric so that the sales team wants to use it and it's easy for them. But 2, it's also easy for everybody else in the organization to add information or to look up information, so they're not constantly harassing the sales team about stuff. And the sales team, they can look and see what's going on. Oh, they haven't paid yet. They have paid, whatever. So I think that's really important. I think the other thing is helping everybody understand. So the owner should be doing a funnel review with the individual salespeople so that they fully understand what's going on at every, what's going on in prospecting. What do we have that we're trying to qualify right now? What's going on with all of these? With this company, how many additional opportunities are there? So the owner is fully aware so that they can then, in the regular meeting, in the monthly meeting, pull the critical highlights out of that information and share it with everybody. Hey, just want you to know, I know these guys haven't paid, but we've got 6 opportunities in the funnel for them. So we need to figure out how not to make them mad while we're asking them for money. right? Or, hey,
critical information to share.
critical information share. But by looking through the funnel and talking to my salespeople, I can gather enough information to share that with the team. So we tend to think that our team meetings are about production and about new products. But what's going on in the sales world? Everybody in the organization is part of the sales team. And if they don't understand what their role is in the sales process, we need to tell them. If shipping doesn't ship, all the work that salesperson did is gone. I literally worked with a company one time that had they had a 6-month onboarding wait. And I'm like, okay, how can I sell something and then tell my customer they have to wait 6 months to be onboarded? Well, we're doing new product development. We don't have time to onboard customers that don't sell it. You can't do that to your sales team. And so those are the kinds of things that we can do to make it the heart of the business.
All right. Last question, Liz. What is the best sales advice you have for a small business with 5 or less people? The most important thing you can do is know what you want and be intentional about going to get it. So the biggest mistake we can make is to be reactive. Oh, I bumped into so-and-so. Oh, this came in on the internet. Oh, this phone call came in. That's reactive. What do you want? What are the leads you want? What are the goals you want to hit? Who are the people you want to talk to? And go do it. Be intentional about going after what you want. And when we don't, as a company, when we allow our sales team to just be reactive, it takes us off track. We end up selling the things that we don't want to be selling. We end up selling to companies that are really expensive and not profitable. We end up making new product, spending time solving problems when we really should be focused somewhere else. So first we need to decide, where do we want to go? Who do we want to sell to? And be very intentional about how we want to do that. Thank you so much for that helpful information, Liz. Now we have what we need to get our sales operation systems together. And when we come back on the Small Biz Chat podcast, we're going to be talking with my next guest about how to build wealth if you're a girl. So stay with us. We will be right back.
People always ask me, how can I become my own boss? With multiple features in the New York Times, Forbes, and on ABC News as America's #1 small business expert, I know a thing or two about how to do it. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I've been coaching small business owners since 2008. That's right, I've been helping small business owners plan for success since the last recession, and I'm still here reaching over 3 million small business owners a week online. I've spent the last 12 years compiling exactly what I did to become my own boss. I even broke it down into a 6-step system in my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. Over 100,000 people in multiple languages around the world have this book, and due to the pandemic, I know people need help. If you're ready to transition successfully from being an employee into your own business, I'm here to help. I'm giving away 1,000 copies of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months for free. All you need to do is pay for shipping. That's right, I'm giving away 1,000 copies for free. If you've always wanted to start your dream business, let me give you a roadmap to success. This offer will only be available while supplies last, and when they're gone, they're gone. Click on the button to grab your copy today.
Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, America's #1 small business lady, and I am so excited to welcome you back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. And it's time for me to introduce my next guest, who is also my friend. Her name is Charisse Conanan Johnson. She is an MBA and an CFA. I'm going to let her tell you what that means. She's a health expert, investor, business strategist, public speaker, and media personality. And she calls herself the original wealthy girl. Charisse is the author of the new book, A Wealthy Girl, 7 Steps to Prosperity, Peace, and Personal Power. And I'm so excited that she's here. She's also the managing partner of the mission-driven consulting firm Next Street, a firm that mobilizes capital, customers, and capabilities to small business owners. She's pursued a life of purpose by investing in financial markets, teaching, building businesses, and stepping out on faith. So if you want to know more about her, go to CharisseSays.com. smallbizchat.com. Charisse, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Melinda, for having me. I'm super pumped for this talk.
All right, good stuff. So listen, it has been a stressful year for everyone. This past year has been rough, and particularly for women. You know, the statistics show that over 1 million women have been pushed out of the workforce by the pandemic. And you're saying, but wait a minute, you said now is a perfect time to be focusing on wealth creation. Talk to me, Charisse. Where, you know, how am I doing this if I'm worried about all the other stuff going on?
Absolutely. I want to encourage you and everyone else when we talk about wealth and why we should be focused on it right now. It's because we have the opportunity to take advantage for what we know can be ours. Liz said that earlier as it relates to the sales process. Well, we have to take control of what we want our wealth to be. I'm a big fan of being the CEO of your wealth. And with everything going on, we have to hold both things. We're in a new normal. I don't want to go back to the old normal with a resizing of our values, a resizing of what's important to us. Why not take another look at how we might do things differently with our jobs, with our money, with all the things that allow us to do the things that we want in this life? And that is why I'm a big fan of being that CEO of your wealth amidst the pain and again, trying to do that in order to get you to where you want to be.
I like that. Be the CEO of your wealth. We're going to get back to that in a second. So tell me about your new book and how, you know, to be a wealthy girl. How did this even, you know, come about? What made you even write this book?
Absolutely. Well, I have been in a career journey right now where wealth has always been at the center. And I was just coming off of maternity leave. I now have a 22-month-old baby girl. And as I was returning to the workforce at my day job at Next Street, I said, you know what? For the next generation, she epitomizes it. But all the other young women out there, I wanted to put out in the world how to give guidance to what it means to truly attain wealth. And I defined that holistically. As I looked into her face, I said to myself, wealth isn't just about the dollars and cents. We're so much more than that. And people obviously are a big part of that, but also our relationships, our faith. And so I wanted to put together these 7 steps that allow us not just to get the prosperity that comes in the form of dollars, but to get the peace and personal power, because that's what's going to sustain us in this COVID environment and other trials that will come.
So that actually brings me to my next question. So how do you define wealth? So it sounds like you're saying not just about what's in your bank account or in your pocket, right? So tell me, what are the other things that one should count as wealth?
That's right. That's right. And just for everyone, as a reminder, wealth tangibly and traditionally is defined as your total assets. So your financial assets, your private companies, real estate, minus your debt. Could be credit card debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt. We know, good Lord, have a lot of that. But when you take those assets minus the debt, you get your net worth, which is your wealth. I'm saying, in addition to that, I still want to get those things because those things are important to me. But in addition to those things, my intangible assets, it's my relationships, my connections, my network. Who am I surrounding myself with? My education, and not just the paper that says a degree in which I attained it from, but my experience, my faith, which for me has been a big part of my journey. And I know for so many others, and being hopeful when they can't even see the outcomes. And so those are the things that I want to embark in and let people know that those assets, and particularly as women, where statistics try to define us solely, and patriarchal statistics, and also as a woman of color, as a Black woman, those things are important because these gaps, the gender pay gap, the racial wealth equity gap, that isn't everything that defines me. And I'm tired sometimes of being beholden to some of those standards that actually don't encompass those intangible assets.
All right, so let's talk about some of those misconceptions or myths that people have around wealth.
Sure. I think one of the big ones that people have is that I'm not worthy of wealth. a lot of people don't believe that they have the ability or that they deserve a high amount of wealth, and on both fronts. And so I'm here to tell you, and I'll say it loudly, I am a wealthy girl. I own that. I'm the CEO of my wealth, right? So that's one of the misconceptions, that you're not worthy. Another misconception is that people believe that they don't have the skill set. Sometimes understanding the numbers, understanding what it takes to get to the next level, I might not have that, or I didn't grow up with that in my household. Maybe my parent wasn't a small business owner, or my parent wasn't in finance. That can weigh on your psyche. And I want to tell you that you can learn those skill sets. You can have the experience. You can surround yourself with those skill sets that you might not have. And, we touched on that with Liz and both Jeff. Those are very important things that you should keep in mind. Another misconception is that wealth is an individual activity. I think we have a poster child in this generation of individual wealth attainment. You look at, Facebook, one of the biggest success stories in terms of its impact and reach across the globe. And everyone thinks of Facebook. Who do you think of? Mark Zuckerberg, right? And Mark didn't get there by himself. He had a whole team of folks journeying with him and helping him on the side. And that's the secret of the wealthy. They have a lot of help. And so if you can tap into that, it's about the power of the collective and how can we all move forward and attain wealth ourselves.
I love it. I love it. So what are the 7 steps to living a wealthy girl life?
Absolutely. So these 7 steps, the first one is you gotta build an environment for wealth creation. That is surrounding yourself, what I call your A team. Yes, you might think of a financial advisor. Absolutely, you should have one of those in there. But your informal peer groups, that encompasses your A team, a therapist, a career coach, a sponsor, a mentor. You might not have all of these things at the same time, but putting yourself in a position to surround yourself with people who can assist you, and assistance is a good thing to make you go farther a little bit faster. I think that sets you up for an environment for wealth creation. Also, that involves having some of the ambition that you need in order to take to that next step. The second step toward having a wealthy life is the ability to work your craft. Everyone has a unique skill set, and everyone is going to do it a bit differently. As you have this wonderful platform that we're able to come on here and really showcase our skill sets, that is about working your craft, right? It is about doing that thing that you just do really well. The third one is about making sure you develop an investor mindset. And I know we'll probably spend a little bit more time on this one, but that being on the offensive and being on the aggressive and investment to get a return is really important. The fourth step that I want to share is the ability to run wealthy experiments. This is just a process of growing, testing, and ensuring that you have a mindset of experimentation to generate wealth in service of wealth. That's really important. The fifth step, you need to start or support the entrepreneurs and small businesses around you. It's not enough to say, oh, this person is over here starting a business. What can I do if I'm not the entrepreneur myself or the small business owner? The sixth step, so important, building a faith muscle. This is going to make sure that you can get through the dark days when you can't see the outcome of the wealth that you want to get. And then the last step, certainly be a girl. And I define girl not in a traditional sense. I put girl in quotation because whether you're gender non-conforming or don't choose to identify yourself as a female, a girl, what I say is harnessing the power of the collective. We are so equipped at bringing people together and making sure that our community benefits from our power. And if you're a guy listening to this, there's a role for you too, because you can support the girls in your life. And you can also harness that mindset of pulling people together to reach toward the goal.
Now, I know that budgeting is like a key activity in wealth creation, but I know from paging through your book, you're anti-budget. You don't like that word. So you created something that is the alternative to that. So help explain to us, what do you call it? Your sipping and living allocation. Like tell me what that is.
There you go. You're right. I hate the word budgeting because it can be so constraining. It actually sets us back, one, because a lot of people have a hard time sticking to a budget. And so why try to stay with it when you're not going to stick to it? I prefer allocating your money, and whether you're running a business or allocating your personal money, it's what is the cash flow coming in? And then how are you going to allocate that, because you need to spend that down. And that leads to my SIPN and LIVN allocation strategy. And it's a framework. SIPN stands for saving, investing, paying down, and protecting. And we can get into those specific components. But ultimately, if you do that first, save and invest, paying down your debt, and then protecting yourself, whether that's insurance, health, car, like all of those are important. And then living your life. That's the other part of the framework. And that's the living part. If you do those first sipping parts, then you can live and do everything else you need to do, live indoors, get the groceries and not get too caught up in the subcategories. That I have found, and I've talked to thousands of people about how they quote unquote want a budget. And it ultimately comes down to choices that they make. But upfront, if you could do those sipping stuff, you'll be in a really good spot. And so I have some guidelines around what that entails for you at every one of those broader categories.
Love it, love it, love it. All right. So you talk a lot about the investor mindset. So I want to get back to that because I think that's like sort of what people need a lot of guidance around. So tell me, how do I get started? If I don't have an investor mindset, or I've been scared of the stock market, or Lord, cryptocurrency, like, what do I, what should I do to start developing sort of like that investor muscle, if you will? Absolutely.
So it actually ties back to the framework of being the CEO of your wealth. The first part of building that investor mindset muscle is to set that vision for what you want. This is super important, whether you're going to do a vision board, whether you're going to write those things down. What are 3 to 4 elements of the life that you want? Write those down on a piece of paper, draw a picture, put them up. Remember to tell yourself and remind yourself on a daily basis what those things are. The second thing that you're going to want to do is to take action. And so you can start small. You may not have, thousands of dollars to invest, for instance, but these days with the resources that are out there, you can invest fractionally. You don't have to have the same magnitude of money in order to invest, for instance, in cryptocurrency or, a Bitcoin. I mean, that is going to be super important. My mom is one of the best investors that I know, and paying attention to the trends that are happening around you. If you take us back a year ago at this time, Zoom, right? Everybody was starting to get on Zoom. You weren't, using it that much, but you knew that we were moving virtual. Zoom stock at that time was trading at $125, right? You could have taken just a little bit of money, put it into that stock. September, Zoom stock was just trading under $500. I mean, individual stocks is one just example of what's happening around you. How can I make sure and take advantage of the trends? And being able to act on that is the key. Most people are overloaded with information. I think Jeff was talking about that, but changing that behavior from the information to action, even in small increments, is so important to build the muscle. And then the third piece, I would say the step is to build the confidence. And the way that you do that is having the right infrastructure around you, whether it's the tech platforms that enable you to do what you need to do, whether it's an accountability circle. I talk a lot about the promise and premise of wealthy circles, which is a group of people that can be accountable to those goals and to that vision, and also co-invest with you. You don't have to do this thing alone.
I love it. I love it. All right. So we're almost out of time, but can you tell me what is the best place for people to get a copy of your new book, Wealthy Girl?
Absolutely. I love that question. Right now, the best place that everybody knows you can search for it is Amazon. You can buy the book on Amazon, the ebook, the audiobook, and the paperback that you just showed. And I appreciate that. And I hope that we spread the love and spread the wealth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, and stay right there, because right now what I'm going to do is bring back our other 2 guests. Jeff Chastain, and Liz Heiman. And we're going to play a really quick game that we call Hit It and Quit It. Now, let me tell you guys what the rules are. I'm going to ask you all 4 questions. I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions, and you only have 30 seconds to answer, and you cannot repeat somebody else's answer. If you do, we're going to give you the moo bell. I don't want to give you that. So pay attention. All right. So the first person we're going to call on is you, Jeff. You've been on ice the longest. Then we're going to go to you, Liz, and then we're going to come back to you, Charisse. Okay. So the first question I asked you, Jeff, is what is your favorite podcast?
Oh boy, I've got so many on there. I'd say honestly, I don't know about favorite. Just the most recent one I've been listening to is the Book Yourself Solid. They just brought out a new, or not Book Yourself Solid. It's the Business Made Simple. Same kind of thing. Business Made Simple with podcasts that they're bringing out, just talking about the structures and the capabilities that need to go building a business, and they tie it into it's an airplane metaphor that they're using. Really, really great visual on it. But yeah, just a fun podcast. A lot of just lively talk right there with their group, and I think they're pretty much brand new this year, bringing that one out.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Liz, what's your favorite podcast?
This is a hard question. I'm going to say The Girls Your Mother Warned You About. Have you listened to that one yet, Melinda?
I haven't. Tell me.
It's actually a business podcast. And it's all the guests are women, and they're doing great things. And it's a really fun podcast because they hold nothing back. They're really fun.
Sounds like my kind of girls, bunch of Mustang Sallys. Love it, love it, love it. All right, Charisse, what is your favorite podcast?
Yes, I have to go with The Daily. I mean, it's the New York Times podcast, and I'm a huge story, kind of documentary style consumer of news and politics and culture, and they do it all in that podcast, and I can get it on a daily basis.
I actually like that one too. All right, this next question, I'm coming to you, Liz, first, and then you, Charisse, and then last to you, Jeff. So what is your favorite business app? What is your favorite business app?
So my new favorite business app is called Zoho. And I use it for everything. So it's cheating. I use it for everything from signing documents to making my website to my CRM to my bookkeeping. So that's my new favorite, exciting new toy.
So you are a Zoholic. I love it. I love it. All right. Charisse, what is your favorite business app?
My favorite business app is a productivity app called Pocket. I don't know if you use it, but it allows you to capture articles, stories, anything on the web. And for me, consuming a lot of information, I need to do it efficiently. And so that's a productivity saver for me. Love it.
I love it too. I love that one too. All right, Jeff, what is your favorite business app?
So Charisse, actually, give you a scare there for a second. No, it's only sort of business app, but it's called Pocket Cast. Is actually a fairly new app. It's just an aggregator really for a bunch of different podcasts, but it brings in the podcast for you, queues them all up for you, shows you got new episodes up to listen to. And it goes back to the productivity side of a time saver there, just to keep track of all the different podcasts you want to listen to and make sure you're up on the latest ones there.
All right. So what is it called again, Jeff?
Pocket Cast, Casts.
Oh, Pocket Cast. Okay, because I thought you said Pocket App, and I'm like, same thing. Okay, got it.
No,
got it.
It's close. Right, that's why she worried me there, but no, it's different.
Well, next question for you is, this is one's coming to you, Charisse, and then we'll do you, Liz, and then we'll do Jeff again. So what is your favorite old school marketing tip? Favorite old school marketing tip?
Man, favorite old school marketing tip. Pick up the phone. I learned that one from my daddy when I sent him emails and invites, and he said, "Can you pick up the phone and call me if you want me to do something?" So yes, that's my favorite tip.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Liz, what is your favorite old school marketing tip?
It's all about reach and frequency. So how are you reaching them and how often are you trying? And it takes we know it takes like 16 communications before you get a response a lot of times. So reach and frequency.
Did you say 16? You just made my head spin around. Holy macaroni. All right. Jeff, what is your favorite old school marketing tip?
Well, I would say it's almost an extension off of Charisse, but it's more the conversation. Can you have that conversation? It's all about conversations of just being with them, being in their life, understanding what's going on, not coming out with a direct hard sales pitch. It's literally a conversation about business, about life, whatever, and just having those conversations, having real relationships there rather than constantly being in the sales mode.
Right. So just calling somebody and just asking them how they're doing versus like, you know, the hardcore sell. My favorite old school marketing tip is actually handwritten letters. I love sending people handwritten notes, handwritten letters. You know,
I tell people that all the time.
That's my favorite. All right, last question, and this one is coming to Jeff first, then Charisse, then Liz. Best business book you ever read? Go.
Oh, I've got a whole bookshelf full. I don't know about picking a best one, but the one I'm reading right now, the newest one I've got, is called 212. It's the degrees of change, or the extra degree is what it is. And it's the idea that, okay, the difference between a pot of warm water and a pot of boiling water and steam that can go power a locomotive is simply 1 degree of change, 1 degree of action. So you don't have to go reinvent the world. It's literally 1 degree change can make all the difference there between something that works and something that doesn't work.
I like it. I like it. All right. Charisse, what's your favorite business book?
Man, yeah. Like Jeff, I got a lot, but one of my favorites is Getting to Yes. William Ury and his partner there. And I use it all the time in terms of negotiating, persuading, moving people to where I need to move them.
Excellent. Excellent. I like that book too. All right, Liz, what is your favorite book?
All right. So do I get 2 answers? So of course, my favorite business book is the one my father wrote. Isn't that what you wanted me to say, Melinda?
That is what I thought you might say.
So Strategic Selling is one of the best books ever written on sales. And truly, that's not just because my dad wrote it. People tell me that all the time, that, strategic selling changed their life. And so my other favorite, so without being, because my dad wrote it, is The E-Myth. And I think for any small business, The E-Myth is a great book by Michael Gerber.
That is an excellent book. And for the longest time, that was my favorite business book that I always would say. But my new favorite business book is Disrupt You by Jay Samit. And I love it because what he says is if you want to disrupt the world, start by disrupting yourself. Yes. So I love it. Listen, thank you guys so much for being my guest tonight on the Small Biz Chat podcast. My guest, business transformation coach and CEO of Admentus, Jeff Chastain. Thank you so much to sales expert Liz Heiman, CEO of Regarding Sales.com. And thank you to Charisse Conanan Johnson. And grab a copy of her brand new book, A Wealthy Girl. Go get it. And thank you all for joining me for this episode of the Small Biz Chat podcast. For more information about how to start and grow a successful small business, head over to succeedasyourownboss.com, or you can check out one of my brand new courses on Small Biz Lady University. Thank you all. The mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. And I leave you with this: you never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. Good night, everybody.